In only 9 months, she's led the fight to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell, using television, print, the blogosphere, and everything she could to draw attention to the issue, and it's raised the profile of this issue higher than anything, and at any time since the 1990s. Over this entire summer, Kirsten tried to pass a Don't Ask, Don't Tell moratorium, a ban on the firings, but just ended up short of the 60 votes necessary that would have prevented a filibuster by Republicans. That moratorium would have prevented the discharge not only of myself, but hundreds of others who have already been kicked out under the discriminatory policy this year. But two things happened. We realized Kirsten found out that there's a lot more openness to repeal than anybody would have ever expected. And we found out that dropping the issue and remaining silent was not an option. Instead of letting the issue go, Kirsten redoubled her efforts and went a different route, a Hail Mary. What happened was, now we have hearings that will happen about the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy by the end of this year. The first hearing was 1993. But she didn't rest there. She pressed on with Pentagon officials and Department of Defense brass to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell. She's also a strong supporter of marriage equality. In fact, she came out for marriage equality during the final stretch of her second House race to represent New York's most conservative, Republican-leaning district. Wasn't an easy stance to take. And she took quite a risk at the time when most politicians were treading as lightly as possible. But she did not shy away from controversy in order to do the right thing. She traveled to Albany last spring and personally lobbied members of the New York State Legislature to pass the bill. She continues tirelessly to write letters and encourage the bill's passage to ensure marriage equality and the end of discrimination based on love in New York State. In Washington, she's also been pushing for the repeal of the Discrimination of Marriage Act, and she served as an original co-sponsor of the Matthew Shepard hate crimes bill, which passed this week. But the resounding message of Kirsten Gillibrand is we are not satisfied. That is not enough. And we will not be satisfied until all people can live in our country with full and equal justice for all. She is also a sponsor of the Employment Non-Discrimination Act, fully inclusive for our transgender brothers and sisters. And it is so fitting that we're here at the New York City's LGBT Community Center, just steps away from Sheridan Square, where 40 years ago we saw the birth of our modern movement at the Stonewall Inn. And I want to remind us here that we can look back on history and see many other peoples who were oppressed. We can take from their movements, and their civil rights were gained after a lot of decades. One group in particular marched around for 40 years without too much hope. And it's a reminder to all of us that sometimes it takes the new vigor of a new generation to push us forward into a promised land. Kirsten told me, and she repeats it often, that she considers lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender rights to be the civil rights front of our generation. And she is leading that charge, not because of the polls or because of personal benefit, but because it is the right thing to do. So I want to introduce to you a friend, an ally, a battle buddy, as we say in the military, somebody to our left and to our right that's in there, in the foxhole with us. She is more than a fierce advocate. She is our senator, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand.